Hello and welcome to Comedy in a Nutshell. You know, some comedians are said to have comedy in their genes, others are said to have funny bones. Well, in a bizarre deviant forensic surgery, I hope to dissect their brains and discover why comedians put their heart into what they do, without putting their foot in it. I'm the comedy nerd who's seen more than 1,800 different comedians perform live comedy, and you can find out more about my journey in comedy fandom on my website, thecomedynerd.com. Please also take a moment to like, subscribe, rate, review and share the podcast. Thank you. My guest this episode is an actor, a clown and character comedian who reached the semi-finals at this year's Sketch-Off competition and is now making their long-awaited debut at the Edinburgh Fringe with a fast-paced one-woman show cast with a cavalcade of characters. It's comedian Charlie Mulliner. So let's start all the way at the beginning then. How much was comedy an influence on you growing up?
So my big memories as a child, I was thinking about this and I was like, as a family, we weren't like big into music. And I was like, what am I talking about? Whenever we had to do the washing up, my dad would shove on an episode of Blackadder or Fawlty Towers or Yes Minister. I've never really known how you meant to say that. And he loved all of that and he loved Monty Python. And so I definitely, grew up thinking that was what comedy was, just like silly posh men being very funny. So definitely that was like a big part. Like Blackadder, I still can like probably quote more than is healthy. And then with my mum, again, in my head, I connect her with like tape cassettes because basically the only time she shared kind of her love of things was when we were in long car journeys. And often that would be like History, the Sceptred Isle. I don't know if you know it. It's a very interesting history series. But occasionally she'd put on Joyce Grenfell, like the monologues of Joyce Grenfell. And again, someone said something very kindly about me being like, oh, you're quite like Joyce Grenfell. And I was just delighted. And I was like, oh yeah, like that is actually quite a pivotal, that was like some of my first memories of comedy or like character was through that. And like, I do think those have been really, key in my comedic influences. I don't know if that made magical sense, but you know what I'm saying.
You went down the acting route primarily.
Yes.
Were you always like, was performance in your soul, if you want to put it that way?
Yeah, I think I've always been a horrible little attention seeker from a very early age. Yeah, I started going to like youth theatre groups when I was about 7. And I remember my big brother saying at after one performance where I had to play a northern character, and he was like, your accent was actually all right. And I was filled with joy, a joy that I think I've been searching ever since. And so I kept acting and doing all kinds of like theatre-y bits, both like in school and out of school. And yeah, like the comedy side of things, like I always loved watching comedy, like Smack the Pony and, you know, all those like, all the stuff that's like Ab Fab, French and Saunders. But it was usually, I was more drawn to like the sitcom-y things like The Vicar of Dibley. I'm really aging myself. And so I think in my head, I was like, I want to perform. I like making people happy. And theatre is the best way of doing that. And so I just comedy always felt like something that other people did. And I performed whatever anyone asked of me, whether that was tragedy, comedy, whatever. I was like, I'm here for you. Use me. I'm your tool. So that was kind of how it went for a very long time, like until I went to drama school. I went up to the Edinburgh Fringe with a couple of student shows that, like, one of them was funny. Dinner is like a black comedy by Moira Buffini. And again, like I loved getting the laughs. Like, you know, when you've landed something, it's like landing a plane. You're like, oh, got that joke done. But it never occurred to me that I would just ever do that. And that came a lot later when I tripped off to Gaulier to be shouted at by a Frenchman.
Yes, not one but 2 clown schools on your CV.
Yes, Mark, I'm something of an overachiever.
Everyone's done Gaulier.
Everyone's done Gaulier, but has everyone done Lecoq? I could give you the full justification of like, oh, it was COVID and I was just in Paris, so I thought, why not do Lecoq too? But hey, I should be proud of it. I should be proud. I just, yeah, at a certain point when you've got 3 drama schools on your CV, you're a bit like, I really need to do some work now.
But this whole path of acting, playing
Mm.
characters, and then doing character work, and then doing clown, which very much putting you outside of yourself constantly. Is it always been that being other than you, not being you, being in a role that you're playing?
Oh, it's getting very therapeutic. I definitely think that probably has been the progression has probably been actually like putting more and more of myself into the work. So with acting, you're right. It's very much like I was like, oh, it's not me, and therefore I can be safe in a way.
Yeah.
And then I wrote my own play, which was a comedy play, but it was a play. And so that obviously was more of me now coming out. And I was like, oh, that's actually, I really love doing my own writing. Like there's something very exciting and fun about not just being the actor, but also like saying like the things that I had in my head. And it was after that I went to Gaulier. And again, I was sort of just looking for someone to poke me out of my fear. And instead I like met all these amazing comics and other theatre people. Was that, I think maybe it was like also when I started writing, I also started I went to Comedy Virgins at the Cavendish Arms.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, what a night. What a beautiful, beautiful night. And I think like that must have been about 2018. I can't remember if that was before or after I went to Gaulier, but basically I got a little bit of this like, well, I've liked doing my own work now. So maybe I should also just try and be myself on stage and see if that's funny. And I think it went just about well enough to make me go, maybe I could. So I kind of, then I was like, I went to Gaulier to try and like, free myself as a performer, and alongside kept going to open mics. And oh Lord, was that hard. Like there were times where it would just be crickets and you're like, oh, I always thought that I was at least a chuckle worth. Oh no. But it's very good for the soul, I think, to just to put yourself in such a vulnerable position and survive it.
Yeah.
And also being at Gaulier. So as I started doing that more, I was also at Gaulier, where he really does like there is no safety. Like you go up on stage and every time it's a bit scary because he doesn't ever say, oh, you know what, Charlie, that was all right. He will, the second you do anything, and it can be literally, I once walked out on stage and within 10 seconds, he'd hit his little drum and gone, is she the least charming woman we ever saw in your life? And you're like, okay, so that's going to be me for today. And so you're really like the scariest person I could ever perform in front of, like, has now happened for me. And I do think that meant that every like audience I performed in front of after that, they were always kinder than Philippe. So like it's given me just sort of this like gratitude to the audience that they don't just get out their little drums and hit me away. So I just had out like a great love for all audiences because I'm like, thank you for just still being here. So yeah, and I think it was around that time, like, and with clowning, I realised I might have strayed very far from your question. I'm so sorry.
Absolutely not.
But I think Philippe really like shook me to kind of get out of my safety zone and realize that actually the more you connect to an audience, whether that's in character or not, the better it's going to be for both parties and the more fun it is because the more alive it is. And so once that has sort of like penny had dropped for me, and I never thought I was like not a good clown, which I've now realised I think is the first step to becoming a good clown, is you have to be a very bad clown to begin with, because you really can then you begin to really feel it, like what it is to have disappointed an audience. But that like I got a bit addicted to that kind of like link, but just being myself, just getting up there and telling my story is really fun, but I feel like it's what I do my whole life. I just like monologue at my mates, God bless them. And actually character kind of allows you to create a little world with each one that you're creating, and I kind of just love the magic of that, and I love being able to not escape into that, but like also step into this other place. And whether it's not me or me, I mean, they're all little facets of my weird brain. So I guess it more feels like I'm making a little gift of like some strange thought I once had. And therefore it's still quite exposing.
Yeah. Does that make it easier, though, to talk about yourself or those ideas if it's through somebody else? Because they can say things that you might be reticent about saying.
That's true. There's definitely, yeah, I think the vessel definitely means that you can like deliver things in a way that is potentially either more effective or just funnier, or you like can put, yeah, you can put ideas out there that maybe you don't even have an answer to, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't always have a message. It's sometimes just like, oh, I think this, like, what if this existed?
Yeah.
Do you guys like it too? But I do think that that's the greatest thing about comedy is that when you make people laugh, you drop their barriers. So you can then reach people in a way. And this is, I still love acting, and you know, like RSC are listening and they want to give me a Ophelia, like I'm ready. But there's something about comedy that I think allows you to really connect to another human in a way that tragedy can become, we're all like in our own private experience. And you can, if you do something wonderful, they might be really feeling it, but it's sort of, we're all keeping it to ourselves. Whereas comedy is contagious, like laughter's contagious. Like if you can make someone laugh, their like resistance to you, that sounds terrible, but you know what I mean? Like their like wall against you as another human is completely, the guard is dropped, and you're there and it feels so mushy and lovely and you're like, hey.
Yeah.
And whether that's like me doing it in character or not, like the connection still feels very honest, which I like.
Yeah. But people are making a judgment about you in those first 10 seconds, 30 seconds. They're judging whether they want to give you their time and attention, whether they listen to what you want to say or watch what you want to do. Whether you're an actor, whether you're a comedian or a hero or a villain, they're still deciding whether you're worth investment of their time.
Yes, that is a really good point. And I think the thing that's a real vicious cycle almost is if you can come on with confidence and not arrogance, but confidence, and go, I've got this. Like, I don't need anything from you. I'm here to give you something, but I don't need anything from you. So if you want to hate me, you can hate me. I'm going to be fine. Don't stress. I think if you can come on, whether that's as a stand-up, as an actor, as a comic, and go, I've got this, you just sit back and relax. I'm steering the ship. Even if they don't like your style of comedy, they can sit back and go, okay. Whereas if you come on and you go, please like me, or like, is this okay? That's when you, like, the audience will go, oh God. And depending on whether if they're anxious people, they will have a very stressful time because they will be feeling so bad for you. And if they are like impatient people, they will be getting very angry because they'll be like, I'm wasting my time here because you don't know what you're doing. So I think that again is the thing that has been beautiful, and I've been so lucky to do all this bloody training, is that I now know how to get on a stage, and whatever I know that I will be fine and I don't need them. And again, I think also maybe having done this for a long time now, performing in general, I'm like, I love you guys. It'd be great if you loved me, but like, I don't need you to. So don't worry. Whereas I think when I was younger, I came out, and especially when I first started doing clown, I needed the audience to like me so badly. And as soon as that happens, you can feel it. They just go, fuck you. And so I think, yeah, that's where the judgment comes. That initial judgment, like what you can, that once you've got them on side in that way, of course, some people are still not going to like it. And the problem with my show at the moment is I'm basically eyeballing the audience for 60 minutes. And so and it's so annoying because even though I know that in general, it's going really well, people are really having a nice time, I will always find the one person who isn't laughing at that moment. Like, it'll be like a sea of laughter and I'll be like, you don't like it. And then it'll just be like, in my head, I'll be performing. And then like every so often I'll just check back in on that person. Like, did I get, yeah? Not yet. Okay. And it's such a strange thing that it's, yeah, I don't know, that you always kind of are like looking to see, is everyone on board? And it's like, I don't know, people say when you're, like when you're acting, if there can be a stage full of people, but there's one person who's not paying attention or who isn't like doing their job, that's where the audience will look, because they can't, they're just like going to the lowest point of or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the mistake is, the audience will find it. And it feels like as a performer, like whatever the unhappy face is, that's what you'll find. And you're just like, why do humans do this?
Yeah, I think that is normal. I hear that a lot, that a comedian will focus on the person who's not laughing. But the reality probably is that they're probably a comedian or a reviewer.
Yeah. Or some people just aren't big laughers. Like I once was watching the audience. I wasn't watching, I was playing for them. But I saw this guy and I was like, he hates me. And afterwards, it turned out he was my friend's friend. And apparently he loved it. He just didn't tell his face. And I was just like, okay, I also need to learn to just like allow, like, you just don't know, or you don't know what kind of day they've had. You don't know how tired they are. And maybe they just don't like it. And that's also totally valid.
Yeah.
You can't win everyone.
Well, how about when you're watching comedy? I mean, first of all, do you watch it? And if so, how do you watch it? Do you watch it like a comedian would, sitting quietly and analysing what's going on?
Yeah, with my notebook.
Yeah, or can you be entertained by it, as perhaps you might have done watching those early TV shows?
I think it does change. So it sort of depends on what I'm watching. So when I'm watching stand-up, I'm definitely just able to go with it. The other thing that I have realised that is the irony is I'm not a big laugher myself. Like, I laugh a lot in life, all the time. But when it comes to like, if someone's performing for me, I go into listening mode. And I've also been working as an acting teacher for the last like 5 years. And some of my students have said that I have like quite a terrifying face when I'm watching them, because I just go into listening mode. And I do, like, I'm someone who doesn't tell my face things sometimes when I'm listening. Again, like when I'm talking, my face is like moving all over the shop. But when I'm listening, I sort of go a bit like zombie. I realise that this is oral, so I shouldn't just do an expression. So I think often, like, it really is only when something really catches me that I'll go like, huh? And so even with stand-up, where I don't feel that sense of like what's going on here, I won't laugh a lot, but I'll be having a lovely time. Like, and I to be honest, I'm so impressed by really good stand-up where you can feel that even though the material is like slick, they genuinely are present with that audience, because that's the only thing. Sometimes you watch stand-ups and they're really good and they're really on it, but you can feel that it's almost like no matter what you did as an audience, they would do the same joke, same pause, same everything.
Yeah.
And for me, there's a point where it gets a little bit it can feel a little clinical. But like people, I don't know, like Nish Kumar, Ivo, I watched James Acaster's special recently and I was like, it's just genius. Sarah Pascoe was one of the first stand-ups I ever watched live, and I just loved her so much, just her personality and her like charisma and just warmth. And I was like, I love you, can I be you please? But like, yeah, like those kind of stand-ups who they're so themselves, they're like they've managed to like bottle up a version of themselves and gone, take me. I just amazed by. I think with clowny stuff, weirder comedy, not that I don't know what I classify. I do character comedy and it's quite theatrical. I don't think I'm weird enough to say that I'm an alternative comedian, except for the fact that I'm not doing stand-up. I feel very like bashful to try and put myself in the same category as these like amazing weirdos. But like when I watch some of my friends from Gaulier perform, it's not that I'm like analysing them, and it's more that I am just kind of going, how'd you do that? Like, where did that idea come from? Oh, I love your brain. But again, it doesn't necessarily like result in big laughs, because I'm just kind of going, oh my. Because they're so surprising. And I think for me, that's my favourite thing about comedy, is being surprised.
Yeah.
Like the deliciousness of that, when you're like, I did not see that coming.
I threw in a little bit there about your performance being judged by an audience. What about if you're being judged by judges? So, for example, I know that you were recently semi-finalist at Sketch Off.
Yes.
So how do you engage with competition? Obviously, we're going to talk about Fringe in a little bit, and that is a massive competition. You're up against 4,000 other shows. So what is your... Oh, no, sorry.
We're good.
Sorry, but it's true. Do you have a competitive streak in you? Are you competitive in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, I am competitive. And when I try and tell people that I'm not competitive, I can literally hear all of my friends and family like laughing in my face. I still think that I am like competitive in the best sense, and that I love to play a game, but I don't mind if I win or lose. Like, obviously you play to win, but if I lose, it's chill. Again, I can hear some people scoffing, and it's like literally the work of my life to convince those people that I'm like a great person to play a game with, and I don't get upset. But when it comes to competition with like Sketch Off was really interesting, because for me, like a successful performance is one where you feel like the audience were like happy to be there and enjoyed you. And the thing that was so lovely about the Sketch Off audiences is they were so warm. So you left going, well, that was an absolutely delightful show. And then there's this weird moment afterwards where they're like, yes, it was delightful, but you weren't delightful enough. It's these two people. So it's this weird thing where you have to kind of remember that it's quite not arbitrary exactly, because obviously the people that go through like absolutely deserve to go through, but arbitrary in the fact that it's like doesn't mean you weren't good or fun, and it's not an objective scale. So it was the first competition I'd done, and it was like a really great like reminder and like wake up call in a way that regardless of what happens with a competition or like awards or reviews even, like it's not the be all and end all, and no one can tell you yes you should be doing this or no you shouldn't, which is kind of the worst thing about it in a way, because it just means you're constantly having to like face yourself and go, are you still enjoying it? Do you still think you can do this? Even after like only 2 people turn up to your show, like you still have to really be honest with yourself, like, why am I doing this? And is it still giving me what I wanted it to give me? And of course, outside validation, like judges going, yes. Or like when I got through in a wild card from the first round. And when I got that, I was like, thank you so much. And of course, like immediately it does fill you with all the endorphins or whatever. And you're like, yes. So it's very helpful in that sense. But I think it can't, like, I know from not getting into the final, I have to be like, what, like that can't hold too much status in your head. Otherwise, like you're going to go mad, because even then, like, and because then inverse, like even if you did make it to the final and if you did win, like that doesn't secure anything really. Like it might open some lovely doors, but it doesn't guarantee anything. So I think it's just that sense of, it's lovely to get to play in front of a group, a new audience, like people that don't know you before, get their feedback, feel their energy, and take that for as long as it can go. But I don't think I've sort of like made a pact with myself not to get hung up on it. And it was the same. I got like shortlisted for Best New Show at Brighton Fringe, which was again like lovely. But then I realized I don't even know if they had seen the show before they should. Like that's the other, you're like, oh, what do these things mean? Really? It like sounds nice and it's great to go on a poster, and it's lovely to be able to say to people like, it's not just me and my mum who think it's nice. But you can't, like, when it doesn't happen, it can't have like a worse effect than the positive. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
I think you got to stay level, and like the good can take you up, but the bad can't take you down.
Yes,
because you've got to be more robust. There's too many variables, and it's too subjective. I think.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about acting. We've talked a little bit about you doing position on a bill, like in the Sketch Off competition, and of course about you've got your solo show, which we're going to talk about. Where do you think you find yourself happiest? Is it in the writing? Is it in playing with an ensemble? Is it doing a spot on a bill? Or is it being able to do a full hour of your own solo work?
I think the thing that has always kept me in this like job, and from like whether that's acting or comedy, has been like the variety of it. And I do think that is still the thing. If I ever had to do just one of them, I think I'd go a bit mad. So I love all of it. I think the joy of being on a bill, especially something like Sketch Off where everyone's doing something a bit different, is that you like really, it's so supportive. Oh, I love everyone I've met doing that. It was so lovely and friendly, and I loved watching their weird brains in action, and it was so great. doing like I've out in Paris where I've been living, I used to do like towards the end of my time there. That sounds very strange. But like I was doing quite a lot of open mics as like trying to do stand up, and then I started doing like improvised stand up where I was like trying to, which I think it was really helpful actually in terms of like building up audience interaction like ability. Where I just turn up and I just like riff for 5, 7, 10 minutes. And that was really interesting because like other comedians would be like, what are you doing? Like, who are you? What is this? And it was much more kind of like a slightly, I feel like stand-up tends to be more competitive in a less like, we're all rising in the boat together. And it's a bit more like, are you better than me? Are you better than me? Did you get big enough? And then I started doing more like weird stuff where I'd come in strange costumes. And again, like being the weird one on like a otherwise quite standard bill is like a fun feeling, but it's not necessarily the warmest feeling because you're sort of like, they're looking at you going, I don't know where to place you in my like world of competitors / friends / rivals. And they're just like, you're just this weird thing. And you're like, yes, that's correct. Well done. well seen. So I definitely think like being in a mixed bill with other people who are like similarly trying out like character stuff or sketchy stuff is really great. And the 1 hour show though is stressful when you're doing it like I'm doing it with lots of costume changes. But it is also just like a massive joy and a massive privilege to like when you start the show and you're like, God, you guys are given 60 minutes of your life to me. Thanks so much. And then again, because the show's quite interactive, there's quite a lot of like talking to them and like sometimes getting them to do stuff. You really feel like you kind of get to know them all over the hour. And that is just like such a pleasure. So even though there are times like before it where I'm like, oh, I'm not sure I'm ready to get on the ride. Like once I'm on the ride, it is just like absolutely wonderful. And the other thing that's been so beautiful about this is I've been working with my director, Caitlin Campbell, who I met at Lecoq, who's like a fantastic dramaturg and improviser and actor and just sort of, you know, a Swiss Army knife of a person. And her support and the support of like my producer Annie, like beginning to have like a bit of a team around you of people who are like, we believe in you, is just, again, it feels so, I feel so lucky. And working in the rehearsal room with Caitlin has been like just, it's like calling it work feels so silly because it's so much fun. And then similarly, like the writing is always tough because it's like before you do it. And I feel like this is reasonably universal. I think I've met maybe one writer who's like, I find it really easy to sit down and write. And I wanted to knife her. No, I'm joking. But like usually like sitting down, you're like, but someone gave me some great advice, which is like the first draft is scary because it's a blank page. So you give yourself permission for the first draft to just write crap. Like just write something, but it can be rubbish. But you have permission to just write, and you just need to get it out. Then the second draft is scary because you have to try and make it good. But the difference is now you don't have a blank page, you have words, and editing is less scary than writing. So then you still have a scary problem, but it's less scary. So that also has its joy. But I think for me, really, the moment that I start loving writing is once I've shared it with someone and they've given me their feedback. So like I think it's always in the connection, always in the sharing of the work, whether that's writing, rehearsing, performing, that I get like the kicks, or I get my jollies.
Well, in that, and you said earlier about when you saw comedians and they're being present, being in the room and not just like reciting. How important is improvisation to you when you've got something that you've prepared and you've poured hours over, and then to stray from the from the script, if you like? How important is it to be able to improvise and make immediate connection with an audience on that level?
For me, I think that is like the greatest joy. When you know the material works and you've got it there and it's like a backbone that you're like, I'm on a strong, true line, like all will be well. But then to be able in those moments where like the thing that's funny is that there are lots of times in my life where I am in conversation with someone and I can't remember how to make conversation, and I feel a bit like I'm like, I know I've done this before, but I can't seem to do it now, and this is very uncomfortable. And I feel for you because I can feel you feel this is uncomfortable too, but I can't work out how to like make conversation or exit conversation in a way that isn't socially awkward. And yet when I'm performing, what's been so great and what I love is that most of the time, I say 90% of the time, there's some terrifying times it doesn't work. Most of the time, when audience interactions happen and they go somewhere I'm not expecting, somehow my brain just opens and something comes out that is fun. And it's usually because in that moment, you're so focused on the other person and what's being said that little like voice in your head that's censoring you or making you boring, that, you know, is worried, is gone, because there's just not enough time. The adrenaline's up and you're there. And so it's pata pata pa. And some really funny stuff comes out and you're like, that was me. And it's honestly, it feels a bit like magic. So that for me is like I really love those moments where something happens and I can respond to it. And I just feel in that like flow state where you're like, oh my God, this is great. It has happened where I have not been in flow state and thought I could do it and haven't pulled it off. And that is awful. And those are the moments when you're so grateful to be able to go back to the material, because you're like, and hopefully if I don't make a big deal of this, we'll all forget that moment happened and we'll just go back to the show. Like the other day I did the show and I was really tired. I've now noticed, like, from doing various like bills where I've like been abysmally tired, like tired to the point, I've been blessed in my life with lots of energy, but every so often I will just be like a dead bunny. No, that's not nice. I was thinking of Duracell bunny, and then the opposite would be a dead bunny, but you don't want to put that in people's heads. Anyway, very low energy, and I've still been like, but I can't not go because I've said I'll perform. And it just gets real squeaky and weird, and people are kind of like going, and you're like, yeah, I don't know what this is going on either. I'm so sorry. Like, we're all lost. And in the show, it's not actually happened it hasn't really happened yet in the show, except there was one night where I came on as one of my characters and someone said something and I didn't quite catch what they said. And I was so used to being able to be like, what was that? And like get into it. But he was just like, you've got a little thing hanging down. And I was like, well, I couldn't even see the thing he was talking about. So I just felt completely at sea. And then I just arbitrarily decided to like jump to a different bit of the thing to get him like up and down and all this stuff, which makes sense when you see the show. But it meant that I was suddenly like swerving way off course. And I was like, what have you done? And then I had to like think triple speed to like work out how I got back to the beginning of the bit and then move through that and then jumped over the bit I'd already done and made some new material to get to the end. And inside my brain I was just going, who are you? Why have you done this to yourself? So that was dicey, but you know, we got through. At the end of the day, I'm not doing heart surgery, so worst thing can happen is I just prostrate myself in front of the audience and say, terribly sorry, got a bit lost. I hope they forgive.
Let's talk show then. Edinburgh Fringe this year.
Yes.
So you're going up there with Love Hunt. So what's the show all about? What can audiences expect?
So Love Hunt follows the story of Amber, who is a lady in her 30s who has been in a very long-term relationship and has just been broken up with. So the show begins with her looking for her partner because they've literally just broken up and she's trying to find him to work out like what she does now, or win him back or something. Instead, she finds herself in the theatre and then she proceeds to tell the audience about her and her partner and her life. And then along the way, she goes on this like odyssey of self-discovery and meets some mad characters. Like there's a repressed nun and a lonely star and an Australian PT coach, among others. And so she has this kind of like odyssey of like self-revelation with the audience's help. And then at the end, well, I won't give away the end, but basically we sort of like wrap it up. So again, this is where like, I think my theatrical instincts came through. Like I love a narrative. I'm a bit of a story addict. And so I was like, I'd created a lot of these characters over the last few years, and I wanted to like give them a way to exist together. But I didn't want it to I didn't want to do kind of like a sketches. I wanted to kind of give it some kind of story, because for me that always like hooks me in, especially if I feel like I've gone on a bit of a journey. So this is what's come of that. So yeah, it's a bit bonkers. People have said that basically they think they know what they're in for the first 10 minutes, and then they realize that they have no idea. But it's fun. It's very fun. And yeah, I need to get better at selling the elevator pitch, really. But essentially, expect the unexpected. And there is audience interaction, but it's very kind. I'm never laughing at anyone. It's always laughing at me or with me or at my characters, but the audience are always very well taken care of. I want that to be very clear. But we do a bit of blind date at one point, which is great because you've got to have a bit of Scylla. So yeah, it's been a really fun show to make, and I'm very excited to share it with the Edinburgh audiences. I took it out to Tallinn in Estonia, as you do, standard stop in the preview circuit, because I know a guy who runs the Helldecker, which is like an English speaking theatre cabaret bar. And I'd performed out there before with my last show. And so he was like, hey, I've got the show. I want to see if it works. Can I bring it to Tallinn? Because my thinking was, if I could make a bunch of Estonians laugh who don't have the English cultural references, and don't even have English as a first language, then I'm probably good. And luckily that is what happened. So that was like a really nice moment to go, okay, the first 2 shows that I'd done had basically been packed with my friends, which was obviously very exciting and lovely, but it did mean that the like level of anxiety in the room for everyone was quite high, because they were like, please don't let this be shit. She's been gone for 5 years in France and we just have no idea. So it was really nice to do it for a bunch of proper strangers, and for them to laugh and be with me. And by the final night we had a sellout, which was amazing. So that like was a real big boost in terms I was like, okay, this exists and functions, and so I'm really excited to see in Edinburgh how people respond to it. And we have it, the ending is always like up in the air. There's like 2 ways the ending can go, and I'm really excited to see how that plays out over the course of the month.
Because your first solo show, I think you intended to go up to Fringe in 2020, is that
exactly. So I finished Gaulier in March 2020. I have the mad honour of being the final person to finish the full 2 years at Gaulier before COVID hit, and basically the course has never quite looked the same since, because I did it in such a weird order. I kept coming back and forth. So I started in 2017 and I did it all out of order a bit, but I basically finished my final module, second year module, in March, like just as the school shut down for COVID. And the plan had been finish there, go up to Edinburgh with Revelations, and like relaunch myself back into the UK. And instead, I was locked down in a tomp where the school is, and that was that. And then life has taken me on this crazy mad path off to teaching and Lecoq and like performing out here in France. And finally, I feel like the time has come to come home.
So although your sophomore solo show, it is arguably your Edinburgh Fringe debut.
It is my Edinburgh Fringe debut. Yeah, absolutely.
And what does that mean to you? How much pressure is there for you to say, I'm introducing myself as solo artist to the industry in Edinburgh now with this inverted commas first show?
Yeah, it's definitely like, I've wanted to do this for a very long time. And there is, I think, I've sort of been working quite hard to avoid putting too much pressure on myself. And to sort of see it as an achievement in itself to like got this show up there, to get to perform it 24 days, and see what happens, and like meet lots of people, and like get to spend time with my friends who I haven't seen for a long time, and just to see that as like an end in itself. Obviously I have lots of like ambitions and dreams for it and for myself that would be wonderful if those were to come true. But I think like I feel sort of like old and ugly enough now to go, that's where madness lies. Like if I basically say like I need to get like 5-star reviews, a sellout run, like agents coming and a transfer to Soho Theatre, and if I don't get any of those things, it's a failure, then like I'm setting myself up to be quite unhappy, because as you just mentioned, there are like 4,000 people up there. And it is mad because like once you've had like a fun show, you do sort of feel like, oh, this could go really well. And you begin to feel excited. And then Caitlin, my director, put it really well. She's like, there's like a vertigo that kind of arrives when you think about how many other people there are. And it's sort of like, I think it's very easy in this industry to look up and just to kind of go, oh, that person's doing really well, that person's doing well, and to get quite like tunnel vision about who it is that you're pinning your comparisons to. And actually, you sort of always need to remember to keep your gaze very wide and be like, there are so many more people trying to do this than you are ever going to be aware of. And they're all having their personal achievements and failures, and at different levels, like up and down, like the foothills or the mountains, like everyone's going on their journey of like ups and downs and good years and bad years. And like the most important thing I can do is to just go check it. Like, am I still enjoying this? Do I think I'm doing good work? Am I working as hard as I could be? And if the answer to those things is yes, then I've got to let everything else, that's going to have to take care of itself. And if I can keep myself in that place and just be really supportive and enjoy everyone's work and not see them as rivals and not like be bitter about other people's success because I'm like, I should have, then I think I can probably like have a wonderful time and be doing it for the reasons I wanted to be doing it for. And hopefully those other things happen and that would be great. But what I've realized now is like, it is a long game. And I've lengthened out that process by doing this big old run up. But I've sort of realized now, like I'm in it for the long game, and I'm okay for it to take a long time. And I'm okay for this year to just be like an amazing moment to go, wow, I'm doing my own show in Edinburgh. Wow. And even if I get 5 people a day, 2 people a day, even if sometimes I'm just doing it for my techie, it will still be like joyful and experience and great. And then I'll just come back next year with another show and keep going. And until people like stop laughing, I will keep going. And sometimes even maybe after they've stopped laughing, who knows? But the big difference, I think, between coming up with this show and what was going to be my first show, Revelations, which was a solo show, but it was much more theatrical. It was not, I was in the theatre tent completely. Whereas this, I do feel like I have moved over into comedy. And I do, in that sort of immediate relationship that gets built up by like inviting people to laugh. It's just something I've totally got a bit addicted to and love. And just I'm like, I don't think I'm going back from this. But yeah, I think it means a lot. It means a lot personally that I'm finally doing this. Again, like the last 5 years were all thrown because of COVID, and it's happened in like a really amazing way. And I'm so grateful and I'm so happy that I'm still here and I'm doing it. And whatever comes from it is for the future. I'm going to like meet that when it gets there. But for now, I'm just going to really try hard to like keep the perspective that it's just like, what a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And, I'll face the financial ruin afterwards if it does go terribly wrong. Like, I'll deal with that. I can just go get a job in a pub. It'll be fine.
Given what you're talking about the things that you would set yourself against or not set yourself against doing the show at Fringe, what about objectives you do set for yourself? Do you have targets like, I want to play this venue in 5 years' time, or in 10 years this, or I want to achieve these goals, these objectives? Do you have those?
I do. My big dream, Mark, that has been for a long time, which I think is probably going to be disappointing for my mother when she hears it, is I've always wanted to be on Strictly Come Dancing and Taskmaster, to be honest. Um, uh, no, I mean, I do like I would. There are places I'd love to perform. Like with this show, it'd be amazing. Like Soho Theatre is just such a wonderful hub for like alternative comedy, and to get there would feel really lovely. To tour it would be great. To get to like meet people all up and down the country, or like, and like more broadly speaking, like yeah, I mean, of course, I would love it if, BBC or Channel 4 were like, hey, we think you're great. Would you like to write and star in your own TV show? Like, obviously, I'm not going to go, no. But like when I left drama school, the first one, many years ago, when I left Royal Welsh back in like 2013, I had 5-year plans. And I was like, okay, in 5 years, I will have performed at the National. I will have performed on the BBC in a period drama. I will have gone to Cannes. And I was so certain I could make those things happen for myself. And obviously, none of those happened. I don't know if you noticed, but none of those came true. And I remember a teacher at drama school saying, like, he's like, 5-year plans are a little bit short-lived. You should go for a 10-year plan. By 10 years, you know if you're going to have a career in this or not. What's hilarious is I got to my 10-year anniversary in 2023, and I was like, yeah, I still don't know, actually. And I think that the big lesson that I have, like, had to learn over the last 15 years or so is that, no, again, like, there will never be anyone who's begging you to do this job. And there will never be, and there will never actually, or at least not, no, probably there will never actually be a time when you go, I am 100% certain that this is exactly what I should be doing. Maybe once, if you are starting earning the big bucks and you've got work rolling in. But my impression is from my friends who are like a bit further along the line than me is that stability sort of just doesn't exist in this industry. You can feel a lot more confident, and obviously you can put yourselves into a position of more power by becoming a producer or whatever, but still, like, you're never going to know is your next show going to be a hit or not. Like, there's just so many variables. So the only person you can really answer to, I've just realized I've totally lost the trail of what I was meant to be answering, and I'm just going back on my old like spiel of just keep going. But it's like working out that the joy of doing it. Can you financially exist in a way, whatever that looks like? No one's path is going to look like yours. And actually, if you're still managing to exist as a human and like not, starve or not pay rent or whatever it is, if you're able to feel joy in your day-to-day life, then like keep going. But if you're, what was I answering?
Targets originally.
Oh, there we go. So yeah, so basically I've decided targets, schmargets. I like because some of them might get met, and so I have hopes, and I definitely have like a list of things that I would love to do and a list of things that I'm aiming to do, and actions I can take to make them more real. But I no longer set myself like deadlines or boundaries of like this must happen by then. Essentially, my target of all these grand ideas, I realized that actually the only thing I really needed to know was like, am I moving forward? So basically every year I'd be like, am I moving? Do I feel more confident? Do I feel like I've made more contacts or whatever? Do I feel like people know me more? And like basically it's like, as long as every year I feel like I've made progress, I can keep going. And largely speaking, that has been true. It was just like post Gaulier, life became totally different. I just realized that the world, I didn't need to look at it through this very mainstream lens of like, and so now it's just like moving forward sometimes looks like a little wiggle to the side. But as long as I feel like I've progressed in some way, then I can look myself in the mirror / look at my parents and go, it's okay. I'm not a failure. I'm not wasting away, or like I'm not doing nothing with my life. I think, I don't come from an arty family, and they're very supportive, but it took them quite a while to understand why I was doing it. Because as they said, they're like, but so many people are so talented. Like, how on earth will you ever make it? And I was like, that is absolutely valid. And to be honest, I don't know. I now can say that. I can now say, like, I don't know if I ever will, but I know that I can keep going and enjoy it and love it and feel fulfilled and happy. And as long as I'm not moving back in with you because I can't pay rent anymore, I don't think it's any of your business.
Charlie, how can we find out all about you and where we can come and see you perform?
So I'm on Instagram at @cmulliner. I do think I should probably come up with something catchier because my surname is not particularly easy to spell. I'm Ulliner, in case you're wondering. And I do have a website, but I have literally no idea if anyone ever goes in it, which is www.charliemulliner.com. But those are probably the main things. Every so often I flirt with the idea of joining TikTok, but that just seems very stressful. So maybe something for next year. And the show is on at Just the Tonic at the Wee One at the Caves at 12:10, a lovely lunchtime. Come along with your sandwich. Every day from the 31st of July till the 24th of August. Yeah.
And so it's time for me to ask the final question, the one that everyone dreads the most, in line with the title of the show. Charlie, how would you sum up comedy in a nutshell?
Okay, I gave this some thought. And I came up with two little sayings. I think that comedy is the art of creating joyful surprise or surprising people with delightful recognition. Because I feel like it works in two ways. Like either you surprise someone with something they'd never thought about putting together and they go, ha, from the joy of it, or you make them laugh because they realize that they totally understand what you're talking about. And they get that little burst of joy of like, oh yeah, me too. But you do it in such a way that they didn't see it coming. And I think it's comedy is like a merge of those two things. But I think maybe what I really think is that comedy is like the dropping, like creating of community by dropping all the walls, by laughing together. Like by laughing together, we like make a temporary community together. And even if that happens, like, because you're watching a Netflix special, like by laughing at the same thing as someone else, in that moment, you're like connected somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. Comedy can save the world.
Charlie, thank you so much. It's been a joy and a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.